Hi all, this is Vincent Bongolan, your statistics professor for today. Before we start with our lesson, I'd like to begin with this word. Knowledge exists to be imparted. You know, I grew up in the environment that we usually practicing fairness and as much as possible, following the good traits of being a Filipino. That is, sharing what you have and sharing what you can. I'm not saying that I know a lot of things. I'm not saying that I am a good professor. It's just that I am sharing what I can and sharing what I have learned. Now, let's proceed. In all undertaking, there must be something that we need to expect. Thus, at the end of the lesson, hopefully, you will start embracing the importance of having a good skills in statistics, if not, at least, knowledge in statistics. Now, here's what you can expect from this lesson. Number 1, trace the development and history of statistics. In this particular, you can able to determine where these skills in statistics started, and when or where do we use statistics. Second, define statistics. In this part, you will no longer foreign on what statistics is all about. We will be discussing here the definition of statistics. Third, determine the uses of statistics. It is said that statistics plays a vital role in all fields of disciplines. Thus, we will be discussing the benefits of knowing how statistics plays a role in business, in accountancy, in arts management, and to all many other areas of disciplines. Fourth, differentiate research approaches. Since research is one of the most interesting features of all disciplines, because this gives us the opportunity to confirm things, to rebuke things, to clarify, or to discover facts. However, there's one point that we need to focus, and that is to measure only those numerical facts or those less tangible information, such as opinions, articles, attitudes, or values. Fifth, learn the different concepts and terminologies in statistics. Here, we will be discussing the different concepts that we are going to use for the entire class durations. We will be defining the concepts and terminologies, and then we will see how you can differentiate all the concepts. 6. Methods used in the data collection or generating of data. Now we will also be discussing the different methods of collecting the data. How can we get the data that we want? Let us say we want to do a quantitative data, and we have put in the papers what are the needed information. The next question in there was where and how to get those information that we will be discussing in these methods. Next is the sampling techniques. Since we now have the idea on the different ways to collect data, it is now time to think of the different strategies in data collection. In statistics, it is not enough that we know what the data to collect. It is not enough what medium do we need to use in data collection, but it is also matters how are we going to get the necessary data, and that we will be discussed in the sampling techniques. The next one is the ways of presenting the data. Once we already gathered all the data that we want, the next thing that we need to do is to present it. Our boss, for example, wanted to see how far you have done so far in the data collection. Therefore, you are obliged to present it to him in a professional and appropriate manner. Thus, we will be discussing the different ways to present the data. And the last one is the types of data. After surpassing the different stages of data gathering, the next question is that what your data is then now. What do you call to your data? That is the types of data. Okay, now we are going to proceed with the development and history of statistics. Put simply, statistics refers to any recorded numerical quantitative data. In this sense, it may be said that the use of statistics is as old as recorded history. Thousands of years before Christ, data have already been compiled on population, births, deaths, and taxes. This was done in ancient Babylonia, China, and Egypt. During biblical times, Moses and David undertook what are now called censuses, the counting of people under their care. The Roman Empire required all citizens to return to the city of their birth in order to register, that is, to be counted and to be taxed. In the Middle Ages, governments began to compile records on land ownership. William the Conqueror of England in 1086 ordered the writing of the Domesday Book, which set down a record of the ownership, extent, and value of all the land in England. This work was to become a landmark in England's compilation of data. Henry VII, to keep abreast with the mounting number of deaths due to plague, ordered the registration of dead people in 1532. At about this time in France, the government, aside from gathering the usual statistics, ordered the registration of marriages. The origin of the word statistics comes from statistic, an Italian word which means statesman. The word was first used by Gottfried Anchenwald in 1719 and 1772, a professor at Marlborough in England and Göttingen in Germany. However, its use was popularized in the work of Sir John Sinclair entitled Statistical Account of Scotland in 1791 to 1799. Since then, and up to this time, as much has happened in the evolution of the science of statistics. Various methods and sophisticated theories have been developed, which have moved statistics beyond mere enumeration of data. Some of the basic methods and theories we will be discussed further. That's only a brief history. However, if you want to explore more statistics, just approach me and I will be recommending you a lot of books to read. Now, let us going to define what is statistics. Statistics may be defined as the science that deals with the collection, organization, presentation, analysis, and interpretation of data, in order to be able to draw judgments or conclusions that help in the decision-making process. Statistics, according to other authors, refer to any numerical observations of almost all kind. And we would like to adopt the term statistics, which refer to the science that deals with the collection, tabulation, or presentation and interpretation of data. When we talk of the collection of data, we refer to the process of obtaining numerical measurements. Tabulation or presentation of data refers to the organization of data. into tables, graphs, or charts, so that the logical and statistical conclusions can be derived from the collected measurements. Analysis of data pertains to the process of extracting from the given data relevant information from which numerical descriptions can be formulated. Again, analysis of data pertains to the process of extracting from the given data relevant information from which numerical descriptions can be formulated. And the last one is the interpretation of data refers to the task of drawing conclusions from the analyzed data. It is normally involves the formulation of forecasts or predictions. So this is the reason why we define statistics as the science of collection, presentation, and analysis and interpretation of data. This is because we are collecting data, or the collection of data involves a systematic procedures. It involves a science on how to collect data. Now let's proceed with the uses of statistics. Statistics plays a vital role and has general applicability. It is an essential tool in education, government, business, economics, medicine, psychology, sports, and others. The role of statistics starts when we are interested in getting information from the data that we have. By doing research, we can generate data. But most of the time, looking simply at the data, it is very much tough and hard to draw conclusions. In analyzing data, we can get valuable and meaningful information. This information makes our knowledge. But the data in the real world are subjected to have many errors, and only statistical analysis is feasible to correct erroneous data. So those are the uses of statistics. Okay, let's discuss the business. Statistics plays an important role in business. A successful businessman must be very quick and accurate in decision making. He knows that what his customer wants. He should therefore know what to produce and sell, and in what quantities. Statistics helps businessmen to plan production according to the taste of the customers. The quality of the product can also be checked more efficiently by using statistical methods. So all the activities of the businessman based on statistical information. He can make correct decisions about the location of business, the marketing of the products, the financial resources, and so many other things. Now in economics. Statistics plays an important role in economics. Economics largely depends upon statistics. The national income accounts are multi-purpose indicators for the economists and administrators. Statistical methods are used for preparation of these accounts. In economics, research statistical methods are used for collecting and analysis the data and testing the hypothesis. The relationship between supply and demands is studied by statistical methods. The imports and exports, the inflation rate, the per capita income are the problems which require good knowledge in statistics. Now in mathematics. Statistics plays a central role in almost all nature and all social sciences. The methods of natural sciences are most reliable, but conclusions drawn from them are only probable, because they are based on incomplete evidence. Statistics helps in describing these measurements more precisely. Statistics is a branch of mathematics. The large number of statistical methods like probability, averages, dispersions, estimations, etc. is used in mathematics and different techniques of pure mathematics like integration, differentiation, and algebra are used in statistics. Now in banking, statistics play an important role in banking. The banks makes use of statistics for a number of purposes. The banks works on the principle that all the people who deposit their money with the banks do not withdraw at the same time. The bank earns profits out of these deposits by lending to others on interest. The bankers are statistical approaches or uses statistical approaches based on probability to estimate the numbers of depositors and their claims for a certain day. The state management. Statistics is essential for the country. Different policies of the government are based on statistics. Statistical data are now widely used in taking all administrative decisions. Suppose if the government wants to revive the pay scale of employees in view of an increase in the living cost, statistical methods will be used to determine the rise of the cost of living. Preparation of federal and provincial government budgets mainly depends upon statistics because it helps in estimating the expected expenditure and revenue from different sources. So, statistics are the eyes of the administration of the state. In accounting and auditing, accounting is impossible without exactness, but for decision-making purposes, so much precision is not essential. The decision may be taken on the basis of approximation, known as statistics. The correlation of the values of the current assets is made on the basis of the purchasing power of money, or the current value of it. In auditing, sampling techniques are commonly used. An auditor determines the sample sizes of the book to be audited on the basis of error. In natural and social sciences, statistics plays a vital role in almost all the natural and social sciences. Statistical methods are commonly used for analyzing the experiment's results, testing the significance of the biology, physics, chemistry, mathematics, meteorology, research chambers of commerce, sociology, business, administration, informative technology, and so many other things. Now, let's find out the uses of statistics in astronomy. Astronomy is one of the oldest branch of statistical study. It deals with the measurement of distance, sizes, masses, and densities of the heavenly bodies by means of observations. During these measurements, errors are unavoidable, so most probable measurements are founded by using statistical methods. Example, the distance of moon from the earth is measured. Since all days, as the astronomers have been statistical methods like methods of least squares for finding the movements of the stars. Now in arts management. Arts management graduates are qualified to work in museums and art institutions as curators, exhibition designers, and education or promotions officers. They may also become art critics, art historians, culture and heritage advocates, editors of arts and culture, lifestyle publication, as well as publicists and managers of artist performers. In due respects, arts management students can be able to apply their skills and knowledge in statistics in the analysis of every event that they initiated. In critiquing arts, they can use statistics to scientifically gauge their judgment. Okay, now we are going to describe or discuss the division of statistics. Okay, so the division of statistics. Okay, descriptive statistics and inferential statistics. Descriptive statistics. This is a branch of discipline concerned with developing and utilizing techniques for the careful collection and effective presentation of numerical informations. Some statisticians prefer a more narrow definition of descriptive statistics, confirming the term to the presentation of data that have already been collected by someone else. Data on births, deaths, diseases, to aid others concerned with the public health, data on exports and imports, income and expenditures in order to facilitate the collection of taxes, are some of the best examples in which early statisticians were typically interested and in which they consider useful information for presentation. Okay, descriptive is concerned with the gathering, classifying, presenting, and collection of the summarized values to describe group characteristics of the data. It also deals with the procedures that organize, summarize, and describe quantitative data. This is merely to describe the data. The inferential statistics. This is the branch of discipline that is concerned with the developing and utilizing techniques for properly analyzing numerical information, because analyzing data means drawing inferences for them. This branch of statistics, or inferential, can be made by inductive or deductive reasoning. Sometimes a general truth is inferred from particular instance. At the other times, statisticians reverse the process and draw conclusions about the particular knowledge of the general. This drawing of inferences about an unknown whole from the known part is referred to as inductive. Okay, inferential statistics, on the other hand, deals with making judgment or conclusions about populations based on the study of a sample that is taken from the population. Okay, so we are now going to discuss the different research approaches. Okay, the quantitative and the qualitative research. Okay, when we say quantitative, we collect only numerical data. But in qualitative, we also collect different information, not only numerical but also opinions, perceptions, archives, literatures, and other form of information beyond numbers. That is called qualitative data. And triangulation research is a research approaches wherein we combine the data collected using quantitative and the data collected using the qualitative research. So this is the combination of the two. So those are the research approaches. Now we begin by discussing the different concepts in statistics. When we talk about statistics, we talk of its nature. Basically, in studying statistics, we need to familiarize ourselves with the different terminologies. It is the nature of the statistics to understand all the aspects and conditions. Thus, we need to understand each of these terms. We begin by discussing variables. A variable is a quantity that assumes any set of values. These are the data under investigations, such as income, average, grade, age, gender, marital status, educational attainment, and so many other things. BMI, Are you a smoker or no? So those are the variables that we need to collect. The second one is the constant. Constant is a quantity that does not change its value, such as pi, which is equivalent to 3.14, 16, and so on and so forth. Also 2.54 centimeter to 1 inch. As you notice, the value of pi will not change and cannot be changed. This is always equal to 3.14, 16, and so on and so forth. Similarly, when we say 2.54 centimeters, this is always equivalent to 1 inch. Okay? So, we're now going to measure okay, supposedly this is a population. Okay. Population. Okay. Population is the entire collection of all possible observations of particular characteristics of interest. This is referred to as the collection of the universe of data, or collection of data as a whole. It is referred to as the totality of the objects, individuals, groups, and other forms of organization and affiliation. For example, the number of supermarkets in the country, the number of drugstores in the country, the number of Pure Gold branches nationwide, the number of SM branches nationwide. Those are called population because we are considering all information, like what you can see in this picture. It is a worldwide map, and if we are interested to find out the literacy level among the citizens of each country, all we have to do is to cover the entire universe, and we are going to measure the literacy levels of each of the citizens of each countries. However, if we don't have the capacity and capability of obtaining the total population, what we usually do is to get a representative portion of the population, and it is called as a sample. A sample is a representative set of all observations that reflects the characteristics of a whole. It is a subset of the population. Here, we only collect a portion. However, we need to make sure that this portion can actually represent the total population. This is something we could say that a word of few can be a word of all. For example, we are interested to find out the sentiments of persons with disability worldwide, but we don't have the capacity to gather all disabled in the world. What you're going to do is to get the only few numbers of disabled to be interviewed, and the chosen will speak in behalf of all disabled. Now, we will define parameter and a statistic. Parameter and statistic. A while ago, we defined the population over sample. Similarly, these two are almost synonymous. However, parameter describes any statistics that pertains to a population, and sample describes to any statistics that pertains to a sample. We begin first with parameter. Parameter is statistical characteristics of a population. It is definable, it is measurable, and it is constant or variable characteristics, dimension, property, or value selected from a set of data because it is considered essential in understanding a situation or solving a problem. For example, mean and standard deviation. Thus, population mean is the parameter of a population. So, there's an error here. So, sample Okay, so we will call it a population mean, population standard deviation, and population variance. So as you can see, those are the same, however this is a population. So this is a population and this is a sample. The population covers the entire universe, while the sample is only the portion of this population. So as you can see, this is the portion of a population. Okay, as you can see, they are both descriptions of groups. Thus, if we are discussing the parameters of a population with respect to mean, median, and mode of its distribution, we call it population mean, population standard deviation, and all other statistics that speaks about the population. For statistic, we describe the distribution as a sample mean, sample standard deviation, sample variance, and all other statistics which describes the sample. Okay. Okay, so now we are going to discuss the methods of generating data. There are several methods of generating data which are to be organized, analyzed, and interpreted. The first one is the registration method. Under this method, data are generated based on records from the government and other institutions and organizations. It is a records of archives of information. This method of gathering information is enforced by certain laws. Examples are the registration of births, motor vehicles, marriages, licenses. The advantage of these methods is that information is kept systematized and made available to all because of the requirements of the law. This is called the registration method. The second one is the questionnaire method. In this method, data are acquired in a survey by using paper and pencil forms of questions. The questions being asked in these methods is fixed. In this method, written responses are given to be prepared questions. A questionnaire is a list of questions which are intended to elicit answers to the problems of study. Questionnaires may be mailed or hand-carried. This method is inexpensive and can cover a wide area in a shorter span of time. Informers may feel a greater sense of freedom to express views and opinions because their anonymity is maintained. There is a strong probability, however, of non-response, especially if questionnaires are mailed. Questions are not easily understood, will also probably not to get an answer. Now, the third one is the interview method. This method of generating an information employs a face-to-face contact between the interviewer and interviewee. The questions being asked in these methods may not be fixed and can have follow-up questions. These methods of person-to-person exchange between the interviewer and interviewee. The interview methods provides consistent and more precise information since Classification may be given by the interviewee. Questions may be repeated or modified to suit each interviewee's level of understanding. However, this methods is time-consuming, expensive, and has limits. Field of coverage. The observation methods. This method is used when the data that the investigator wishes to gather pertain more to the behavior of an individual or groups of individuals. It is used when the objects being observed are unable to convey information by interviewing or writing. In this method, the investigator observes the behavior of persons or organizations and their outcomes. It is usually used when the subjects cannot talk or write. The method makes possible of recording the behavior and the appropriate time and situation. The last one is the experimental method. It is a method of generating an information based from the results of the investigation from the laboratory. Okay. This method is used when the objective is to determine the cause and effect relationship of certain phenomena under controlled conditions. Scientific researchers usually use the experiment method. Now, we are going to discuss the sampling technique. It is not necessary for the investigator to get all the information and the data from the population or universe under study. It is more applicable to get only subset and portion that will represent the entire information from the population. Thus, the investigator needs to be aware of the sampling techniques to choose the participants or subset of population. The probability sampling technique. The probability sampling technique is a method of generating a sample based from the random selections. This means that all information or all the elements in the population have an equal chance to be selected as the sample. If all the units or groups of population have an equal chance to be selected, that is a probability sampling technique. However, if not all have the chance to be selected as a sample, then it is a non-probability sampling technique, because the sample or the generation of sample are based from the non-random selections. Now, there are sampling techniques which are under the probability and under the non-probability sampling technique. So we will be discussing the probability sampling technique. It is a method of generating a sample based from a random selection. This means that all elements in the population have an equal chance to be selected as sample. Okay. The first one is the simple random sampling. In applying this technique, the researcher should consider the complete listing of population. The stratified random sampling. The population under study when applying this technique are grouped and categorized into different groups, which are characteristics of the groups are based on homogeneity. The cluster sampling. The population under study when applying these techniques are grouped and categorized into different groups, where the characteristics of the groups are based on heterogeneity. The systematic sampling. This is a selection of the sample based on the terms. Data in this system should be arranged in a systematic order. Now, the multi-stage sampling. This technique uses several stages and phases of generating data, from general population down to the most specific area or location, basically from provinces, municipality, barangay down to streets. Now let's go to the techniques under the non-probability sampling technique. The first one is the purposive sampling technique. It is a selection of the participants based from the criteria laid down by the researcher. The sample which satisfies certain criteria are part of the sample. So meaning to say, the purposive sampling technique uses criteria. The quota sampling, the interviewer or the investigator under these techniques has definite instruction about the selection of participants. For example, you are asked to gather the number of buyers in a specific mall. So, for example, at SM Mega Mall, all you need to do is to go to SM Mega Mall from 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock, and you need only to interview at least 100 buyers. So, when you are already done with the 100 buyers, that's already meeting the quota sampling. The third one is the convenience sampling. This is based on the interviewer's choice of generating information, usually based on the availability, based on the things that is most convenient to them. So those are the techniques in probability and non-probability sampling techniques. Now, there are ways of presenting the data. It is said that the presentation is an organization of data in such a way that we can easily read and understand. The first one is textual form. Findings or collected data and information are described narratively. Tabular, in this way of presentation, data are organized and presented in statistical tables. Tables consist of columns and rows with headings. The last one is the graphical method. This methods of presenting data involves and goes together with the tabular form. This is usually a presentation of data where bar graphs, pictographs, pie charts, and other graphs are likely being used. Now, as I've said, we now have the data. And what do you call to the data that we already gathered? This is called the type of data. The group and ungrouped data. Ungrouped data is a data which are not organized yet in any specific form. It is simply a collection of data as they are gathered. So those are called the ungrouped data. Another thing, ungrouped data are data which are not organized in any specific way. They are simply the collection of data as they are gathered. While some computations may be made for this kind of data, analysis and interpretation are somewhat limited. The second one is the group data. Group data is a data which are already organized into groups or categories, with corresponding frequencies and percentages. It is a data that is already processed and preferred for an in-depth analysis. Group data are raw data organized into groups or categories with corresponding frequencies. Organized in this manner, the data is referred to as frequency distribution. Chapters 4. Okay, so that is called the group and ungrouped data. So for ungrouped data is not yet processed, while the group data are already been processed. So the example of this is this. For example, we want to get the age of the respondents. So we just put the age of all respondents in any order, in any style, in any form. So just write the age. So this is called the ungrouped data because it is not yet processed. For the group data, the data already been processed. For example, 15 years old, 16 years old, meaning to say there are 5 16 years old. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So meaning to say the data are already been processed. So we already counted how many are 16 years old, how many are 15 years old, how many are 25. So as you can see, majority of the participants or the age of the respondents are 16 years old, 19 years old, followed by the 35 years old. So those are the difference between the grouped and ungrouped data. Okay, thank you very much.